Sonny Hostin, she done spent years on television telling America that privilege is a moral crime, whether it be white privilege, tall privilege, pretty privilege. Then her own son steps on the wrong side of a gate, and suddenly the language changes. I want you to watch how fast the rules flip when it's our own blood that's on the line.
I do think that there is a thing called pretty privilege. There is a thing called white privilege. There is a thing called tall privilege. And we have to acknowledge that. I do think that...
Oh, okay. Now, you're going to learn that this is the cleanest version of the contradiction, right? On the left side of the screen, you hear her diagnosing privilege like it's a disease. And on the right, what you're going to hear later is she's listing credentials like they're a hall pass. Former federal prosecutor, Harvard graduate, no criminal record. The same tools, rather, she calls illegitimate when other people use them become non-negotiable the second her son needs them. That's not a small slip. I'm just saying. That's the entire worldview revealing its real operating system. The short clip only gives you the headline, but the full body cam shows you the temperature in the room.
Normally, it's a misdemeanor charge. We're dumbing it down to a violation, okay? I know you're upset. We just do it as a deterrence because, again, like I explained to you on the phone, besides being illegal, which is far from the subject, it's dangerous.
My mom's a lawyer, by the way.
That's okay. What's your name?
What's your name, sir?
I'm Brian.
Brian, is that your badge number, 2814?
Yes. So the reason we're stopping you, this is trespassing right here.
Oh, I'm sorry, it was open over there. I was just walking on a run here.
Where are you coming from? All the way over there?
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm sorry, I just looked open for me, so I just walked in.
So this is considered trespassing. It's criminal trespass. The reason why it's such a big deal, people get hit by a train all the time. We want to prevent it, obviously.
Brother, can you please...
you want me to hold it for you?
Yeah, my the phone's at 2%, FYI. Here you go.
So this is considered trespassing. It's a big deal. We don't want people to get hit by a train, which is why we came running over, okay? Do you have any ID on you?
Yes.
Okay, where is it?
It's in my phone, if you take off the case.
Tell them your mother is a federal prosecutor.
Yes.
Hey, Mom, how are you? This is Officer Gomez. Your son's fine.
Officer Gomez,
how are you?
This is
Yes.
federal prosecutor.
Okay, fair enough.
That's my son.
Yeah.
He's a Harvard graduate.
Yeah.
He's not a criminal. He has no criminal record, no criminal history.
Yes. No, I understand that. The issue is, like I told your son, is this is considered criminal trespassing. So besides being illegal, it's actually very dangerous for him to be around the railroad tracks. We get people that get hit all the time.
Let's get my mom on the phone.
Of course, yeah.
Hey, Mom? Hey, so he said that. Can I grab my phone?
Absolutely, go ahead.
And if the phone dies, can we call her?
Absolutely.
Just tell her.
Miss Hostin, it's Officer Gomez.
Hi, Officer Gomez. I'm about 4 minutes away.
Okay, that's fine. So I just wanted to give you the heads up. So I am going to be writing your son what's called an appearance ticket. I'm sure you know what that is. I'll explain everything, where he has to report, all that stuff, because it is criminal trespass where he was. It's normally Hold on for 1 second, miss. It's normally a misdemeanor. Obviously, we're cutting it down to the violation because there's nothing on his record. He's been very cooperative with us. But as of right now, we will have to issue him the appearance ticket.
Officer, is that really necessary? This is a kid that doesn't do anything. He's a Harvard graduate and a Yale researcher. He teaches geometry to
I understand that.
Why would you put something on his record like this?
No, it's not anything criminal. He just has to appear. I'm dumbing it down to a violation. That's all it is. So it's not a misdemeanor. It's just going back down. I'm writing him literally for the 140.05. It's a trespass violation. He would have to appear, which is an inconvenience. I understand that. But with all due respect, ma'am, I still have a job to do. And we have to deter people from being on the tracks. Because again, besides...
I understand, but what I'm asking of you is once a judge gets this, all he would have to do is pay a fine anyway. There is a path.
What happens if you didn't do it?
What do you mean?
What happens if you're like, I need to write this?
Well, we have cameras everywhere. If we didn't see you, somebody would have called it over.
Correct.
And
there was too many trains coming in and out of there to not.
I hate to say
see
it,
you.
it's like my partner said, our hands are tied. It is what it is. Listen, I really appreciate you being cool about this. put your handcuffs in. We do that for our safety
That's
and all that
safety
stuff.
reason on the
Hi, miss. How are you?
That's
I'm Officer Gomez. Oh. No problem. I apologize for this, but you know, it's...
where you were on the
So,
track.
like I explained to you, normally it's a misdemeanor charge. We're dumbing it down to a violation, okay? I know you're upset. We just do it as a deterrence because, again, like I explained to you on the phone, besides being illegal, which is far from the subject, it's dangerous. I mean, so that's pretty much it.
Can you give him a warning?
I cannot at this point. I have to write them in some this.
Can we talk about how
And like I said, it's usually a misdemeanor. We're dumbing it down to a violation, so he's literally getting hit by with the 140.05. It's not going to go on his record. It's not going to affect him in nothing. It's not going to be asked a bunch of questions like if it's going to hit his license. Absolutely not. Yeah. No, it's not going to affect him in work. Yeah.
We can't be
No, I understand.
every single gate and every
I
single
understand. I really do.
along the route.
How are you?
How are you? This is my son.
How you doing, man?
He was walking along the tracks.
just on a run, on a walk, and the gate was open. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
On the phone.
Sounds like an honest
He's on the
mistake.
phone with me. Actually.
Yeah.
I'm a former federal prosecutor.
Yeah.
He knows he's a Harvard grad who teaches fourth grade geometry to kids.
God bless.
This is not a kid who's ever in trouble. It's an innocent mistake. I understand you have to.
Yeah, it's,
it's
I
a
don't know
violation,
what happened,
but
but yeah, whatever.
it's
It's not the end of the world. I get you.
Okay. So this is going to be your copy. Okay. So basically, just have to show up which on a Friday, July 10th at 9:30 a.m. It's going to be to the New Rochelle Criminal Court. It's going to be at 475 North Ave here in New Rochelle. Not the end of the world. Not the crime of the century. Okay. It's
Hopefully.
unfortunate. I get it. I know you're upset. I know your mom's upset. I'm not trying to be a ball buster here. I have a job to do. That's all it is. Okay. I hope you don't take it personally. I really appreciate you being cooperative with us.
Oh, my fault. I ended up chiming in a little too quickly. Hopefully you were listening to the tone. She's not asking. She's establishing hierarchy in real time. I'm a former federal prosecutor. He's a Harvard graduate who teaches fourth grade geometry. Every sentence is designed to raise the cost of writing a ticket. Not raise the cost of the ticket, raise the cost of writing the ticket. The officer stayed professional. You know, she keeps stacking status. This is what it looks like when the people who are preaching his power suddenly remember how to use it. In the audience, they usually cheers. The lecture goes quiet the moment the lecture doesn't apply. But y'all sit back. We got another lengthy one. This one isn't just one mother protecting her child. This is the fruit of a much larger tree. The tree is what they're planting in classrooms.
The culture shift comes from what children learn at school and online. Ask any young person what history they learned at school, and they'll tell you Hitler. Ask them what else? Slavery. Ask them what else? American civil rights. In fact, what little they know of history will be all about black and brown people fighting for equality against the white man, women fighting men for the vote, gay and trans people fighting for various rights. Our young people have been taught that history is simply one long story about various groups struggling under the oppressive dead white man. Out with Dickens, Shakespeare, Kipling, and Wordsworth. We must decolonize. History is taught through an oppressor lens. The triangular slave trade, white men held the power. What about Britain ending the slave trade? More than a quick mention, if at all? No. What of the Arab slave trade that lasted 3 times as long as the triangular slave trade? No. Okay, so GCSE history in Britain is often taught as migration through time. So the idea that Britain has always been a land of immigrants is embedded in our children's heads. Most schools would prefer to concentrate learning about the tiny number of black people who existed in Tudor England over a thorough analysis of England's break from Rome. Medieval history becomes her story and is told through the eyes of Eleanor of Aquitaine, because after all, she was a woman. Not to mention weeks on King Mansa Musa of Mali, because he was a black Muslim. His bearing on British institutions, laws, and faith is non-existent. And the fact that he is said to have been the richest man in history, thanks in part to his massive slave-owning society, is a detail somehow that teachers rarely ever teach. But it isn't just our schools. It's our general culture, too. Take your kids to a museum or an art gallery in any Western country, and you'll find the same narrative. As an example, when learning about aviation in London's Science Museum and the extraordinary feat that is man making massive machines move in the sky, a write-up on the wall explains that women and black people were historically barred from aviation schools and the military. Similarly, James Watt, the man who invented the steam engine and is considered the founder of the Industrial Revolution, has a write-up on the wall explaining that his early career involved slave trafficking with a bonus analysis of the whole of Britain's complicity in the slave trade. They flatten the entire human story and all of its complexities into the narrative of oppressor and oppressed, leaving young people unable to see the world in any other terms.
There's one other thing that I want to show you from this woman because she's very on point, and this video just builds on that last video. It goes right side by side, and it's about the mass indoctrination around slavery and what really happened with slavery. This is important, and you should definitely listen to this.
Is that slavery was not about race, and that's important. It was not about race. The only reason we think it's about race is because philosophers like David Hume in the 18th century ranked human beings and put Africans at the bottom, saying that they had no souls. The Enlightenment imposed the concept of race on a practice that had been going on for centuries in order to justify that practice. And why did they have to justify it? And this is the point. Because people in the West began to question slavery's moral validity. The fact is that people of all colors owned slaves, both as part of the Atlantic slave trade and outside of it. In the United States and Caribbean, black people owned thousands of black slaves, and so did the Native Americans. Nearly 20,000 of the Native American 5 civilized tribes sided with the Confederacy during the Civil War, fighting to keep slavery alive. 28% of the black population who were free in New Orleans pledged their support to the Confederacy. All of the 13 southern states of the Confederacy had substantial numbers of black slave owners. There were more than 250,000 free blacks, and nearly 4,000 of them were slave masters who owned more than 20,000 slaves. The practice of slavery was legal, after all. We need to remember that governments did not own slaves. Slave owners did. In fact, the U.S. government fought a war to end slavery. How much should the descendants of the 400,000 Union soldiers who lost their lives fighting to free the slaves pay to the descendants of the slaves they freed? It's bizarre to suggest that human beings should inherit the outrage of the deeds of their parents. Should the child of a mass murderer be sent to prison because of his father's crime? No. In America, in the main, it was the Democrats who owned slaves, and the Democrats who in the main passed and enforced Jim Crow laws. It was also the Democrats who founded the Ku Klux Klan. Should the current Democratic Party be held responsible for this? No. We do not inherit the sins of our fathers.
Now, she just described the curriculum most Western kids are sitting under. History reduced to one long story of powerful crushing the powerless. White man as the permanent villain, every other group as the permanent victim in the situations. Britain in the slave trade gets a footnote. The Arab slave trade, or the Arab slave trade that lasted centuries longer, gets silence. Mansa Musa's wealth is celebrated. The fact that his empire ran on slaves is treated like an inconvenient detail. When you teach children that the world is only oppressor and oppressed, you don't produce critical thinkers. You produce people who see every unequal outcome as proof of the story they were given. And once that story is installed, reality becomes optional. So what happens when this story collides with actual numbers in the same school district, same funding, and same resources?
Since I've been getting a lot of flack for my school funding take on black versus white schools, I'll give you a personal anecdotal example because you guys can understand those. I went to Floyd Central High School. That is in the same school district as New Albany High School. Floyd Central and New Albany got the exact same funding. If we got a football field, they got a football field. If we got a new studio, they got a new studio. If they hired a new teacher, we hired a new teacher. We were in the exact same school district and we were about 15 miles away from each other. Now, the only actual difference between our two schools was our white versus black composition. Floyd Central was about 95% white, and New Albany was majority black. Now, I want you to take a guess which school people actually wanted to go to. Which school had higher test scores? Which school teachers actually wanted to work at? Because they could actually do their job without getting attacked. It was my school, Floyd Central, the majority white school. The only thing, and I mean literally, the only thing that New Albany was better at than us, and I'm being so serious, we beat them in every sport. We beat them in every test score metric. We beat them in everything. The only thing that they were better than us at was basketball. And I think that says more than I could ever say. And yes, New Albany was economically disadvantaged, but the white kids at New Albany still got better test scores than their black counterpart while having the exact same socioeconomic disadvantages. But I think it's because my school, Floyd Central, got a better school lunch. We did have an absolute banger school lunch. And also, we beat New Albany in football like a decade in a row. And we were a team almost made up of exclusively of white kids because we had more organization and discipline. Now, I was JV my junior year, so don't take my opinions on football that seriously.
Let's verify these claims here. These two schools, we have Floyd Central and New Albany. They are only about 10 to 15 miles apart, and everything that he's saying here is basically true. Floyd Central is about 91% white. New Albany is very close to 40% black. It's a close approximation because they have a high black student rate and they have a high Mexican rate. So it is very close to being majority minority. So if we look at the socioeconomics, this is pretty much accurate. The New Albany school was economically disadvantaged. If we look at the academic performance, the one that was majority white, again, is accurate. They perform better on all of their testing. If we look at the sports claim, the white students did better at football, the black students did better at basketball, and the school lunch banger thing is subjective. And what they're also saying here is that the white students at that black school performed better, and that's also true. So it looks like when you have AI go over all the claims that he's talking about, it's all true. The core claims are true. They hold up the facts, same districts, similar funding, very different demographics and outcomes. The white students perform better academically and in most sports.
Floyd Central, 91% white. New Albany, significantly more black and minority students. Same district, comparable money. One school outperforms the other in almost every academic metric and in most sports. The gap doesn't disappear when the dollars are equal. That fact alone should force the harder conversation about family structure, culture, behavior, and expectations. Instead, the default response is still more money and more blame. The data obviously doesn't care about the narrative. The narrative just keeps pretending the data isn't speaking. And this is where it lands in culture, not in a think tank on somebody's phone.
I've got a question for Americans, and please don't attack me because this is genuinely just a question, yeah?
All right, white fella here, go ahead. What's your question?
Why is it, and this is specifically for white Americans, right?
Right here, go ahead. Ask your question.
Why is it that every time that white Americans say black, they say black like that?
They say black like what? Is this a thing? So how do they say it?
Say, for example, if I hear anyone else saying black, any other American saying black, they're like, oh, black, like black. You know what I mean? Like black, normal, innit? But like with white Americans, there's so much emphasis in the L. Black.
Let me ask you a question. Reverse Uno right here. Why do you speak like the people you claim invaded your national country? Because I could tell by your head shape what country you came from. Why do you speak like them instead of your native tongue of... That's a better question. Skedaddle.
So watch the energy. A young black woman delivering the exact lecture the system spent years preparing her to give. Questions for white Americans. The cadence, the certainty. Then cut to a black man watching it with pure confusion on his face. Now, that reaction is more honest than 100 panel discussions. Because at some point, the performance becomes so automatic that even the people it's supposed to benefit start looking at it sideways. The script is still running. The audience is starting to notice the seams. Now, here's what none of these clips can hide. When a worldview only works in one direction, it eventually collapses under its own weight. You cannot spend years telling people that status, credentials, and proximity to power are illegitimate and then reach for all three the second your own family is on the line. You cannot teach children that unequal outcomes are automatic proof of oppression. And then act surprised when schools with the same resources still produce different results. You cannot train an entire generation to speak in a language of permanent grievance and then expect them not to use it on every available in every available stage. The real cost isn't hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is just the symptom. The real cost is that we've made it harder for people to tell the truth about their own communities without being called a traitor to the narrative, for lack of better terms. And once the truth becomes optional, every solution becomes theater. I'm not interested in theater personally. I'm interested in what still works when the cameras are off and, the hashtag stop trending. Strong families, high expectations, honest numbers. The courage to say the story we were sold is incomplete. If that makes people uncomfortable, good. Discomfort is usually the first sign the whole story is losing its grip. So, drop the word unfiltered if you made it to the end of this video. And y'all be safe, man. Check on somebody today. You can quite literally be saving their life. Peace.